I'd like to thank you all for that fantastic welcome. It's really exciting. And it's exciting to be able to tell you a little bit about us. It's always nice to talk about yourself, isn't it? It's exciting to tell you a little bit of our experience in the business. Hopefully, you'll be able to relate some of the stories, and it might give you hope. That's what it's designed to do. But before I get into us and our story, I'd like to congratulate those people who hit new levels. I think it's a thrill, isn't it? Isn't it exciting to see those people walk across stage? And it's really exciting to see the growth of the organisations, see the people filling these halls. And it's exciting to see directs, 2 directs in 1 month. I remember in the early days we would have been thrilled if there'd been 2 directs in a year. And now there's a direct every month, and this month 2 directs. It's incredible. Who's going to be next? Okay. Right, okay, there's a guy at the back of the cameras. We'll be able to work out from the profiles who that was. Okay, we've never known a time when the business is expanding as much as it is. We've been involved in the business for a while, as you know. But we've seen a growth and expansion of the business. There's a lot of new people here tonight, and I think that's really exciting. And what I'd like to warn you is that if you take this business seriously and put some effort into it, there's a high risk that you might make some money out of it. Anyway, our story. Okay, before I do that, it's a bit like Ronnie Corbett, isn't it? Never gets onto the joke. I'd like to thank you for all the cards. Yeah, where's my little glasses and my little chair? Should have been rigged up. Anyway, I'd like to thank everyone for the cards. We've had a wealth of cards. It's really fantastic. You know, I think as someone else has said before, blows the postman's mind when he had to put an extra postman, when we have a function. Anyway, our story. I was born. There you go. No, some of you doubted that, but I was born, and so was Mandy, and we were both born and brought up in Jersey. Okay, and we had very happy school times there. And like a lot of Jersey people, when we grew up, eventually, I got to go to England for my further education. And I went to Bristol Poly. Mandy went to Bristol Poly, and that's actually where we met. At Bristol Poly, I did a business studies course. Well, so much for that. And Mandy studied tourism. After 3 years there with little prospects of employment in Bristol, I took a safe option to return home to be a trainee manager of a travel agency. It took about 3 weeks for me to get disillusioned. After 3 weeks I could see that I was doing the same thing day in, day out, day in, day out. And it was monotonous. Not only that, deep down inside me there's a little bit of resentment building up, because after 3 years of studying and having come out with an HND in business studies, because I was the junior in the office, I still had to make the coffee. Now, that wasn't fair, was it? And it wasn't difficult then to see how a couple of friends could interest me in a business. In fact, a couple of friends of mine, guys by the name of Dave and Steve, I'd actually met Dave at school, at college rather, approached me and offered me a business. Ironically, not this business. Now, I'd always admired this guy Dave because he was an enthusiast. Everything he did, he approached enthusiastically. And he was always willing to take on daring projects. Those two flew over to Jersey and suggested to me that I gave up my trainee travel agent job and went with them to go through Africa, climb Kilimanjaro, and then set up a business in the States. And that's quite an ambitious project. But I did that. I gave up my job and we went down through Africa, and eventually we managed to climb Kilimanjaro. That was being after arrested in Tanzania and Uganda for illegally crossing the border. The border's halfway up the mountain. We didn't realise, And in fact, I spent in total about 4 days in jail in Uganda. That's an experience. And one day when I get a bit of time, I'm going to write a tourist guide to the jails of East Africa, okay, with specific recommendations like don't eat the food. Flushed with success, Steve and I flew across to New York, where we set up our importing business. We were main agents, in fact only agents, for a series of French companies, and we were going to sell rucksacks, tents, mountaineering equipment, and down jackets. That's what we went over to do. And I sometimes think about what on earth possessed me to do this. I mean, it's a pretty stupid idea. I mean, I left behind a good, secure job, quote unquote, for a risky future. Why? Oh, I think the reason I did that is I believe in the people that were recommending on to me. I believed in the two guys concerned. They were confident, they were self-assured, they believed we were going to be rich. They had this vision of us being wealthy young businessmen, and I just got sucked up with their enthusiasm. And I went along. And I see the same in this business. I see people that are enthusiastic about it. People who really honestly believe that they're going to make it work. I find it very easy to make other people believe it'll work. I find enthusiasm and belief will make the difference in success and lack of success in this business. Another thing I sometimes think about is the risk I was willing to take. I left behind not a very good job, but I left behind a secure job. I left behind my family. I left behind my girlfriend. Manny didn't come with me initially. I left behind the security of an income. And I put in all my savings, everything I had. That wasn't a lot, but everything I had into this business. And for what? For the potential of success. I even went across to a foreign country to try and discover an opportunity. And I look at this business in comparison. I look at, here's a business where you can have so much more success. You can have total freedom. You can have total security. You can have an income that I wouldn't have, been stupid enough to dream about in that other business. And yet you can do this in your spare time without risking your income, without risking your career, without investing your life savings, and in your spare time you can develop so much more. And I wonder how many people see this business and just miss it. You know what I mean? They see the business. They sit down through a presentation and they just can't understand it's a business that offers them so much more opportunity, unlimited opportunity, because it doesn't cost £50,000 to get in. In fact, I'm going to change the rules. Anyway, straying off the point a little bit, we went over to America and we set up our business. We were horribly naive and we got everything wrong. For example, the buying season had finished 4 months earlier. It's a bit silly to go over and sell stuff after people have finished buying it. But also, we got our costings wrong. When we actually found some customers, we found out that our goods were twice the expensive wholesale what the Americans were going out for retail. And we were trying to sell in an industry where everything is sold by who knows who, personal contacts and recommendations, and we didn't know anyone. Okay, apart from those few facts, we were very confident. Well, our confidence was misplaced. I mean, our goods weren't selling. After 4 months, we hadn't sold a thing, and we were running out of money. So we decided to do the best we could. Now, one thing, I'm proud. I wasn't going to go running home to Mummy and Daddy and home and say, look, it didn't work out. I had too much pride. We were going to do something, and we decided to survive. Okay, and the best way you had to survive was to scrape up any forms of income we could. Now, it may seem difficult to believe, okay, when you see us dressed up here, all nice and proper, on a Sunday night. But 5 years ago, on a Saturday night, you'd have seen me outside Madison Square Gardens, or one of the big rock concert halls in New York, Pennsylvania, or New Jersey, standing there with my down jacket stuffed full of t-shirts, bootleg t-shirts. One of my American friends had a bootleg t-shirts business. I would be standing outside Madison Square Hall going, check it out, double-sided, Moody Blues jerseys, check it out. Double-sided, what do you want, a small, medium, large? Right, okay, got small stuff down this sleeve here, and I got a large pants, well, I won't go to that. And there we were. Now, of course, this is highly illegal. We had to keep our eyes, looking back for the marshals, because, I mean, they're clever over there. They don't dress them in uniforms. They look like anyone else. So you keep your eyes along for anyone who's walking towards you rather fast. Okay? Now, that's the kind of people you want to sponsor in the business. Yeah, but it paid the bills, you see, and, we were desperate. It was around about that time when we had our first contact with the Jaeger organization, and it came from an unexpected source. Okay, my friend Steve, my business partner, bought a telephone from New York Telephone Office. And when he came back, he had a card in his hand. And he said to me, Jerry, I've just had something really exciting happen. He said, I met a clerk in this telephone office, and he said he might have an opportunity for us to import American goods into the UK. A subtle line. And he said, this is an opportunity. Now, at this stage, you've got to understand, we were desperate for any attention given to us. Any little show of attention was going to raise quite a bit of enthusiasm. So we got quite curious to find out what this was all about. But we didn't hear from this guy for several months. And I think it's Bill Britt who talks about the fine line or the thin thread that links us with this business. And I'm sure that, if we went round tonight and we had everyone stand up on stage and link through their stories of how they saw the business, there would have to be some pretty weird things happen in precise sequence for you to see the business, or you wouldn't have seen it. Like if you hadn't met that friend on that day, you wouldn't have met the guy who showed you the business. Well, we can relate the same kind of story. I look back on it and it almost scares me to think how unlikely it was that we'd see the business. For example, if my friends hadn't had the idea to go across the States, I wouldn't have gone. It's not the kind of thing I'd have thought of myself. If I'd been the kind of person that was timid and afraid to take chances, I wouldn't have gone either. And if they'd said, why don't we set up in Greece, I'd have been in Greece. So it was unlikely that we were going to go there, but we were there. If Steve hadn't bought that phone from that phone company on that day, we might not have met our first contact with his business. If Ronnie, that's the guy who actually sponsored us, if Ronnie hadn't gone to a seminar earlier in the month where Bill O'Brien had talked about international sponsoring, if he hadn't gone to that seminar, or if Bill O'Brien had talked about something else, he wouldn't have remembered to call us. And if Ronnie hadn't phoned, we wouldn't have seen it. Do you know what he told us? This is weird, but 3 times before he actually dialed a number, he picked up the phone and put it down again. Have you ever done that? Think about phoning someone, pick it up, think about it, put it down. He did it 3 times. What if he hadn't dialed? And if Steve had been there, we wouldn't have seen it, because Steve wasn't interested. After we saw the business, we went back and we showed Steve. It wasn't for him. If he'd seen it first, he certainly wouldn't have shown us. So you see, I don't believe it was fluke, and I don't believe it was chance that we saw this business. I believe that we're meant to see this business. Okay, and I also believe that if you're in this room tonight, you were meant to see this business, and you weren't meant to see it just to observe it. You were meant to see it to do something with it. Okay? So anyway, the months passed, and there was no progress in importing business. We all flew back to our homes in Britain after several uneventful months. And in the new year, Mandy and I went back to the States. We were going to give the business one more try. That's the importing business. Now, my 2 friends at that stage announced that they were going to set up the English arm of our company. Yeah, I'm a bit slow. I didn't realize what that meant. And as soon as I went back to the States to set up this business, they got jobs in the UK. And anyway, unperturbed, us plodding along. And Mandy was working hard. Mandy actually was bringing in the majority of the money. And she was working as a nanny. After a couple of months, we got this phone call. Now today, I think back on it, I am grateful. Everything that's happened to us positively in the last few years has been as a result of that phone call. I'm eternally grateful it was made. At the time, I wasn't. I remember we were settling nicely into a rut. Monday was a nice day. Monday was a nice day because on Monday there were something like 13 channels serving New York, and 3 of them were playing MASH. Okay, we were MASH addicts, and I remember the phone call actually came in the middle of an episode I hadn't seen, so I was a little bit upset. Okay, I don't watch so much television now, but I remember the phone call went a little bit like this. Now you're going to have to excuse the American accent, okay, because I haven't practiced this for a while. Hello? sorry. Wrong one, that was French, sorry. No. Right. No, I picked up the phone. Hello. That's me. So you recognise that one. I picked up the phone and I said hello. Okay, and this voice, before I managed to say anything else, this voice came enthusiastically across the phone. Okay. Hi, Steve. Steve. Hi, Steve, this is Ronnie Hargrove. You probably don't remember me, but 6 months ago we met in Far Rockaway branch, the New York Telephone Exchange, and you bought a phone off me. I mentioned at that time I had a business, and you indicated you might be interested in finding out more, and I interrupted him. I said, well, excuse me 1 minute, Mr. Hargrove, there seems to be a mistake. You see, Steve isn't here anymore. Steve actually left. He's in England now. It's actually Jerry Scriven you're speaking to. And there was a momentary pause, and he's back. No problem, Jerry. We need to get together. Now, that's what I call thinking fast. That's what I call confident attitude and positive mental attitude. And it makes me think, would you have done that? If the guy you were trying to contact wasn't in, what would you have done? It scares me today. I'd have probably said, well, fine, thanks for trying anyway, see you around. Something like that. But thank goodness he didn't. we made our arrangements, and he arranged to meet me 2 days later. And I agreed to go and see him because I was curious. He got me curious. I wanted to know what it was all about. You know, this thing had been going on for 6 months. We didn't know what it was, and I wanted to know what it was. And I was curious enough to go. But you see, as time went by, my curiosity subsided, and I became wary. Okay, and the second day, as time was going by, I turned around to Mandy and I said, somewhat nonchalantly, I said, well, I tell you what, love, you know, that guy, Hargrove, I said, I'm not going to see him. I said, yeah, I don't think I'd be interested. Now, what I wasn't going to be interested, I didn't know. But, yeah, I don't think I'd be interested in whatever he's got. And Mandy said, well, that's fine, but, you know, one thing I want you to do is, you know, I want you to ring him, okay, because you did say you'd ring him. Now, he actually used a line that was very effective. He said, Jerry, listen, if for any reason you can't make it, ring me and let me know, because I'll wait for you. By the same token, if I have to reschedule it, I will have the courtesy to give you a call. Ooh, now talk about putting me on a guilt trip if I didn't turn up, eh? So you see, I sort of thought about not going, and then I thought, well, no, if I'm not going, I better give him a call. And I didn't have the guts just to give him a call, and I certainly wasn't rude enough just to not turn up. So I decided to go. Now that wasn't a light decision, because you see, that wasn't a light decision, because the walk we had to do is we didn't have a car, okay, we weren't broke, but we didn't have a car, and if I was going to walk that kind of distance, it meant walking for about half an hour in the snow in one of the coldest winters that has ever hit New York. Okay, it was so cold that year that they had an announcement on the weather one day that this dog had been found frozen to death. Okay, now if that wasn't bad enough, it was found frozen to death with its leg frozen to a lamppost. It was cold. It was really cold. And there I was, battling against the elements, sort of through the driving snow. Okay, sounds like it's got to the Antarctic, doesn't it? And eventually, around about 5 o'clock, I got to his office, and I met him there. There's this guy, I'd never met him before. There's this guy with a great big broad grin. He said, Jerry, he said, nice to meet you. My name's Ron Hargrove. He said, this isn't an appropriate place to discuss the business. Let's go somewhere where we can discuss this business in a bit of comfort. I thought, fantastic. I'm going to get a free meal out of this. I mean, we weren't broke, but, you know, free meal was never going to be turned down, and I got a rude shock. His idea of comfort wasn't my idea of comfort. His idea of comfort was his car. Okay, now, it was a nice car, but it was a car. Okay, and you can picture the scene now. Here's this 23-year-old Brit, okay, sitting in this stranger's car. Here's this sort of 21-year-old Italian-American rapidly talking away, scribbling away on an A4 pad, talking about our business. Here I am, sitting locked in his car in a dimly lit car park in one of the notorious areas of New York. I don't know, some of you might have been skeptical when you saw this business, but spare a thought for me if you're skeptical. I was scared silly. I didn't know what was going on. But anyway, he went through his presentation. I didn't know what to make of it. He went through his presentation. At the end of it, he showed me some rather big bonus checks, and he showed me some pictures of himself with an assortment of different individuals. Here's me with so-and-so, here's me with so-and-so, here's me with 15 other people, all very nice. And at the end of that, he offered to take me home. And, of course, rather than walk home through the snow, I accepted a lift, and I got home around about 7 o'clock. And I really didn't know what to make of what I'd seen. Okay, I'd never met him before, but he seemed like a nice bloke. And the business had a sort of magical fascination to it. Okay, now part of me was saying, if this is true, if what he's shown me is true, then I could have everything in life that I ever dreamed of. Even those things that long ago I'd given up hope on. He seems trustworthy, the business looks viable. That was what part of me said. Part of me said, be careful. You don't know this guy. You've never seen him before. There may be hidden catches he didn't tell me about. It seems too good to be true.